Dave McMenamin has more on the man who inherited the greatest player in the world.
I spoke with two of Blatt's former players who also played in the NBA, Jordan Farmar and Anthony Parker. Both agreed that Blatt is the right guy to make the transition from head coach overseas to head coach in the NBA.
Last year, if your goal was to establish a team culture and build a team, what would this year be about? What's the theme of this season?
Well, still building on that. You know, it's a totally different year.
With Dave McMenamin of ESPN Los Angeles here in this Wednesday night conversation.
Are there any remaining hurdles for you left before you can get back to game action? And if so, what are the final challenges?
Running to the shooting.
Is the situation fixable where he even wants to stay in Cleveland after this year?
Well, I think Kevin is someone like a lot of the guys in the NBA right now who think about legacy in the long term, and he knows that his reputation, 6 years in Minnesota, 0 playoff appearances, he needs to work on his reputation as a winner. Over the summer, you said that the Warriors caused you to have nightmares. Can you describe them?
No, the Warriors didn't cause me to have nightmares. Losing did.
Friday's game against the Sacramento Kings is out of the question. Does that just move back the timeline? Now you think Sunday against Toronto? Are you into that game-to-game mentality yet? You're in a blockbuster movie, Trainwreck. You've been famous for quite a long time, but through basketball. Is there anything about the notoriety, the attention that you got from Trainwreck that was different from the type of notoriety or attention that you got in the past?
Of course.
You know how this works. You know the coaches, they sit around, they like to sort of look back on people's seasons.
Well, I was public school, you were private in Philly?
Oh, no, public school, Radnor High School. Well, let's start with scoring. I'm going to have to go B-. So I'll give him a little bit more credit on that one. It's his second lowest scoring average since his second year in the league.
So do you think that if Dwight comes back, do you think that he can get higher on that? Can he get an A?
Oh, certainly. I mean, you have to understand. It's like McMenamin coming in here. Andy and I are in here almost every night. McMenamin has to feel his way because he is a leader in his own right from Radnor High School.
I'm Dave. Nice to see all of you. I was just like you in this school. Graduated 2001. My jeans were probably a lot less skinnier than you guys wear, but I was doing the same thing. I took Mr. McKenna, had a journalism class as an elective, and it was huge for me. Was able to decide back, freshman year of high school really, that I wanted to pursue a career in sports journalism. I got to write a column in the Radnorite, and I got to work with Nikki and have a TV show on Channel 16 called In the Paint. And I was able to use my English classes here to kind of like really work on my writing and invest in my papers and take my papers to the writing center and use the resources that we have at Radnor High School to really want to learn, and once I found my passion, use all the things that are available to me here to feed that passion. So it's been a fun ride. I went to Syracuse University out of Radnor. I got fortunately some nice recommendation letters from Radnor teachers that helped me get into college. And from there at Syracuse, I was a manager for the basketball team at Syracuse. We won the championship my sophomore year, and it was great because I was able to use my time at school at Syracuse. I just decided when I was young, when I was your guys' age, I was 14, that I wanted to be a sports writer. And so once I kind of had that guiding direction, it became about what can I do to make this happen? Okay, I'm majoring in journalism. There's a ton of students majoring in journalism. Okay, what can I do extra that would give me an edge? And all right, yeah, there's some people that are interning at the paper at school. So, okay, that keeps me on the same level of some of my competition. But are those people also hosting a radio show? Okay, maybe that puts me in another tier. Are those people who write for the paper and host a radio show, are they also doing a work-study job at the Career Development Center? So I can see every single internship opportunity that comes through Syracuse University looking for students. And then is there anybody doing those group of things and also working for the basketball team and getting to be around a Hall of Fame coach in Jim Boeheim? and getting to be behind the scenes at practice with Carmelo Anthony when he's just 19 years old and trying to learn his craft, and using the time with Carmelo not only to just understand him as a player and understand what basketball means to him as a person, and see the time and the preparation he takes to become a future NBA All-Star, future Olympian, maybe someday a Hall of Famer. But I also got to throw questions at him, like, what's it like for you dealing with the press? What do you like about the media? What do you dislike about the media? I got to use that time and take that information and apply it to my career as I kept going on. So it's quite frankly a crazy experience to be here now and actually walk into this library where I was a sophomore. And I don't know, we got people in here who read sports books regularly, show of hands. Okay, we got some. There's a book by John Feinstein called A Season on the Brink. It's about the Indiana basketball team's national championship in 1987. Bob Knight, probably before most of your guys' time, but he was a very successful college basketball coach. And this writer went inside, behind the scenes, and kind of was the first book of its kind to chronicle a season, tell all the beefs, tell all the fights. If you were a fan of that team or a fan of college basketball, you could go back at that book 2 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, and you are in a snapshot of history. I read that book when I picked it up from the Radnor Library. Actually, at some point, the little foyer, as you walk into the library, I don't know whether they were going through old stock or they were, if this is a program they still do, I'm not sure, but there was books like you could take, not even take out, like they were books you could keep. And so I got A Season on the Brink, sophomore year of high school, right in that hallway. And I read it voraciously. Not that I was trying to replicate that book exactly when I wrote Return of the King with Brian Windhorst in the summer of 2016, but it was that same spirit of that book that I wanted to capture. That if you pick up Return of the King 2 years ago, a year from now, 10 years from now, whenever, you are transfixed to a time and place in history, in basketball history, where you not only understand the box scores, and the Cavs are the first team ever to come back from 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors, the only team in NBA history to come back from that deficit in the finals. But it's the interpersonal relationships. And Brian and I, we both tried to capture these kind of universal themes that would speak to not only what was going on with that Cavs team, but you could relate to it as a reader, because what the Cavs went through was a very human experience. It's a very extreme human experience. Game 7 of the NBA Finals back in 2016 was 30 million people. At the time, was the most viewed basketball game in the history of sports. But really, it comes down to their people. Richard Jefferson told me he couldn't sleep at night for about a week from Game 5 to Game 7. And he was having to take Advil PM. And he was worried about, oh, how's this going to affect my performance at shoot-around? And they're going to wonder if I'm sick or something like that. But it was a very human thing that he was going through. Whenever you find the passion, take it very serious, because there's something in you that's telling you that, you know, it's not haphazard to find a passion. Like, it's whether it's subconscious or whether it's all your experience you've gone through up to that point that is pointing you in that certain direction, you should listen to it. And if you do that, you give yourself a chance to kind of start making the practical steps to reach, you know, perhaps a dream or a passion. And that's to me was what I was very fortunate I was able to experience, because I decided pretty early what I wanted to do, and there was many people willing to help me. Mrs. Reardon, hi, wrote one of my college recommendation letters. And I think I came back to Radnor at some point in my 4 years of school, and I told Mrs. Reardon that I was thinking about becoming a basketball coach rather than be a journalist. And she about bit my head off and said, well, no, I think you want to, what about the journalism thing? You're at Newhouse, this is what you want to be. And, you know, you kind of recalibrate, and you need people like that. You need truth tellers, and you need, you know, I knew she was coming from a place of support and confidence in me that I would listen to that message.